Rogue Media Sports.
It is the Cam Show. It's Rogue Media Sports Network. It's Friday. From the Colt Brennan Memorial Studio, it's Cam Stewart, Scotty Swingler, keeping us on the air as he does every day. No Pete today. Pete's calling cross country. I would love to be a fly on the wall to hear Pete Souza call cross country. I mean, I could just go to ESPN Plus, but I got a show to do. Damn it. Wake up. It's the first of the month. Is this enough bits put in here for like the first minute? Can I just be normal now, please? Scott, did you do anything fun Halloween?
Yeah, we went trunk or treating at MCC.
Wow.
All their teams and organizations were out there. Tons of people, man.
That's nice.
The best costume I saw was, so we have a 4-month-old and she was dressed up like a flower. Her name's Marigold.
Okay, there you go.
And
That's
the
nice.
best costume I saw was this mom and dad had the whole wagon, that you pull a baby in.
Mm-hmm.
They had totally decked it out like a bathtub with bubbles. And then their kid, probably 1 year old or so, was in a duck costume, like a rubber duck.
Okay, I thought it was going to be the sea hag from The Shining.
Not quite.
Dang.
Like a rubber duck. And then the mom was a loofah. And the dad was just in a bathrobe, He was,
just in a bathrobe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's I wish I could go out like that. I actually had a dream last night that I was in just a bathrobe in public.
Really?
Yeah. That's interesting. And I just remembered that.
You going to share? Or is that?
No, that's kind of it. I
it.
just remember.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was in like high school. I was at like a school assembly. I just had a bathrobe on. And I had thought it was some sort of theme day or something. And it wasn't. And I'm talking just a bathrobe. And so I had luckily in my backpack, I had shorts and a t-shirt, but it was cold out. But I had to do it anyway. But I don't know why I had that. Anyway, I've asked Pete this, but I realized I haven't asked you this week, Scotty. Do you have like a favorite movie, like Halloween time movie that you go to?
So I say this with every ounce of kindness and love in my heart. My mom is a wonderful Southern Baptist lady.
So no.
And so we did dress up and we did go trick-or-treating. I wasn't that out of the loop, but we did not watch a lot of Halloween. We didn't do the Halloween movie thing or the thing. I really like Nightmare Before Christmas, though. It's kind of a classic.
Let me ask you this then.
Okay.
Harry Potter, yay or nay?
Nay for me, yay for my younger sister.
Okay.
Because that's how it goes when you're the oldest.
Gotcha. So that was a time thing.
Yeah.
Of like,
yeah.
All right. Yeah.
But no, not for me.
SpongeBob.
No.
Okay. I didn't notice that till I got here to Texas.
Like I said.
And like I got it. And it was actually a girl I was dating. She was like, no, I wasn't allowed to watch SpongeBob.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Like I didn't watch it when I was a teenager, so I hadn't seen it.
And so my mom
was just like, what?
My mom, to her credit, can explain away most of those and give me her rationale. I'm like, okay.
And she's grown,
but she has
in that. I'm not saying she's like she's a child.
But
or anything.
SpongeBob, I think one time, long freaking time ago, I asked her like, why didn't you ever let us watch? And she literally said, I just found it freaking annoying. I'm like, okay, like,
okay,
that works for me.
Fine, I'll use that as a parent. I'm sure at some point. Because I just last night I just got high and watched the old Twilight Zone, the original Twilight Zone, which I am such a fan of, man. I used to be so into it when I was a kid. The old Rod Serling type. I watched like 4 episodes of it, man. And I do love Black Mirror. Mike and I were talking about that before coming on. I find that much better than all the modern Twilight
also
Zones.
really enjoy Black Mirror. Which one's your favorite?
So we were actually discussing this because forever it was Shut Up and Dance, which is the one where the guy's getting like texts saying, hey, I'm gonna like he's clearly watching porn at the beginning.
I think that one's my favorite.
And they're like, we're gonna release to all your contacts that you were doing this. And that's what you think the whole time. And there's an incredible twist at the end. And he's going around like committing crimes and like all this shit, so that like he's clearly getting blackmailed. He ends up running into another guy who's also getting blackmailed. And it's a wild ending. So that was always my favorite, and it probably still is. But this newest season, which was like a year and a half ago, has the one with the astronauts with Aaron Paul.
I have not seen that one.
Which, have you seen any of that new season?
No.
So that one is incredible, but there's also this one called Loch Henry, which might overtake Shut Up and Dance. Like, it's right there. I won't give anything away. I won't spoil it for you, but it's this guy who is a documentary filmmaker, kind of young, 20s, 30s. And he goes, so he's Scottish and I guess was living in London or something, goes back home to his hometown in the Highlands and is investigating something that like his dad, who was a cop, was investigating, like this murder. And there's like a huge twist, and it is wow. Like it is one of those Black Mirror episodes that you like, there's nothing to watch after that. You're just like, holy shit, I need an hour to just digest what I just saw, much like Shut Up and Dance and some of the great Black Mirror episodes.
Shut Up and Dance is the one for me. And then I don't remember the episode title, but what's the one with Bryce Dallas Howard?
I was talking about that one too. I don't remember the name of it.
It's
but
like
where
a twist
she's like living online.
It's like social media basically to the nth degree of just how twisted and sick.
And she basically gets canceled in a way.
Yeah,
like that's kind of
so social media in that episode is like your currency. Like
yes.
You have to have certain scores on social media to like buy a coffee. Like it's and so everyone's pandering for all the likes so they can go live normal life. Yeah, that Bryce Dallas Howard episode was
a good app,
unbelievable.
Man. It's a good app. There was that one season that I was like, but overall love that. But love the Twilight Zone, man. I watched the first one, where the guy is stuck in a town where he's the last man on Earth, and it turns out they're just like getting him ready for the moon, prepping him for being on the moon. 5 characters in search of the exit was another one I watched. Willoughby. My favorite is it Time Enough Now? Is that with the guy who loves reading the books?
I'm not as familiar with Twilight Zone.
Oh, that's great, man. That one and Eye of the Beholder, which that's not a hot take. Those are 2 of the best episodes ever. Watch the Hitchhiker one. That's a great show, man. I could go on and on and on. I love the Twilight Zone. Love Rod Serling, man. What a guy. What a guy. So that was my Halloween. But my go-to movie, thank you for asking, is The Shining. I think is one of the great movies of all time. I know Stephen King doesn't love it, but sometimes I don't love Stephen King. Some of his other adaptations stink. I have tried to find the miniseries, which is supposed to be much more loyal to the book, but I cannot find it. It's not available on streaming. So, or YouTube. So I don't know where to find the Shining miniseries for free. If someone knows, drop it in the comments, please. I would love to know. But that is for me number one. What I also tuned in for a gory, scary, frightening Halloween showing, my frightening Halloween screening of the night was watching the Boston Bruins play hockey. That was atrocious, man, just atrocious. And it's making me think that we are inching closer and closer to this team being the worst Bruins team I have watched in 15 plus, almost 20 years of watching this team. Like, we're getting perilously close to that. And we had Matt Barry on yesterday, and we kind of, joked about it at the end, but we're like, this could be bad tonight. Carolina's never a good matchup. They always get up to play the Bruins. They're playing much better hockey than the Bruins are right now. It's on the road, and it was worse than we could have ever imagined. Midway through the game, they were on pace to give up 12 goals last night. I'm actually stunned they didn't give up 10. They were that piss poor. They were that bad last night. They give up 8. They lose 8-2 to Carolina. It was an absolute shit show in the highest order from puck drop, basically. They go down 1-0 pretty early in that game. They get a 5-on-3 goal, which is basically a pass from Marchand into the low slot that gets deflected off a skate and goes in. So you need to go off someone's skate to score 5-on-3. They don't ask how, they ask how many. And there was that thought of like, maybe that's the bounce the Bruins need. Maybe that's a break to go in their way, and they're going to win this road game after a poor showing, which we have seen from that. We saw a lot from that team last year, I should say. And certainly the year before, they didn't lose many games. But last year, I could just remember a couple of times where they just put out a poor effort at home and then had a big win on the road. I'll think back to February. They lost to Washington at home on a Saturday matinee, and that really stunk. And they went on the road at the Islanders, I want to say, who were playing good hockey at the time, and beat them by a couple of goals in their building, which was great. But looking back on the last, I wrote it down here, the last 3 minutes of the first period were just horrid. It's almost impossible what they accomplished in the last 3 minutes of this first period. It's an interference penalty off a face-off, which was not a great call, but whatever. So it goes interference penalty, power play goal, Carolina. Then Dmitry Orlov scores 40 seconds later. Then the Bruins commit another penalty, a high sticking, and then another power play goal for Carolina, and then a goalie interference penalty, all in the last 3 minutes. 3 goals in 56 seconds. 2 of them are on the power play, and no major penalties. When you think about that for more than a second, you realize just how tough that is to do. Just how freaking awful that is. Just how bad a hockey team you are to let that happen. Again, penalty, you give up a power play goal. All right, let's tighten up, boys. Nope, you give up an even strength goal 40 seconds after that. Then you commit another penalty and give up another power play goal. That is almost impossible. And it's almost impossibly bad. And yet the worst of those goals was the one they gave up 5-on-5 to Dmitry Orlov. Scotty, we've got the clip here. I want to roll this clip and let's look at this together. This is atrocious hockey. All right, so look at this. They've got numbers, but then there's 3 guys below the dot. Orlov is at the face-off dot in the slot, and there's no one there to cover him. Like, what are we? We're checking air here. We're 3-on-1 defensively. So again, they don't have bad numbers here, but look, they all go towards these 3 guys, or these 3 guys all go towards the puck. And there's 2 guys just absolutely coasting behind him. Orlov has no one around him. Look where he was there. No one around him. He's right in front of the goal. A defenseman. He's actually participating in the rush. The Bruins' back check is not. It's embarrassing what this team is putting out there right now. They're supposed to be this defensive team with no defensive structure. And I can't believe this is the worst part of all of this is I'm about to give some credit to Kevin Paul DuPont, the biggest douche ever to take a pen to paper covering the NHL. Kevin Paul DuPont is out there tweeting, says, you know, when I was growing up, if the Bruins put out a performance like this, there would be gloves and sticks and blood all over the ice. And the man's got a point. I know it's not the NHL of old, but can you show some fucking pride? Can you show some pride as professional hockey players? Oh, but they're so big. Charlie McAvoy's the smallest defenseman in the core. Who gives a shit if you're big if none of them hit? None of them. Lindholm, Carlo, Lohrei, they're not hitters. McAvoy's not even a hitter. Zadorov's supposed to be a hitter. He's a penalty taker. He's got the most penalty minutes on the team. He gets a penalty every game. Nobody stands up for anybody. Nobody takes some pride. Carolina's scoring all these goals. They're embarrassing them, and they're the ones hitting the Bruins. They're the ones taking them to task. The Hurricanes are the one winning the physical advantage even way throughout this game. And what's funny is the building empties out with like 6 or 7 minutes left in a blowout Carolina victory. The building empties out because they're all Bruins fans. It was so embarrassing. I'm not kidding. I know it's going to sound hyperbolic, and I know I overreact sometimes, but that's one of the most embarrassing Bruins games I've ever watched as a fan. That was terrible. That was awful. And what sucks the most is it's coming off a couple of awful performances. Like, talk about not having any pride, man. They got shut out by arguably the worst defensive team in the league on Tuesday. They come back, they go on the road on Thursday. They seem light coming into this game, and they somehow get even worse. And things are going to get worse before it gets better with this Bruins team. We talked about it yesterday. Who's coming to save you? They don't have the guys. I texted Grace last night about how bad this Bruins game was, and she likes the Bruins, but obviously doesn't know it. Or I've said this before, not obvious, but she doesn't know a lot about, kind of the ins and outs of things. And she's like, what went wrong? Like, what's the issue? They seemed pretty good last year. And I said, they just don't have any talent. There's just not enough talent on this team. And they played above their talent last year. That's pretty apparent. And some of the guys that did show out for them had career years. Charlie Coyle, career year. Morgan Geekie, can't even see the ice this year. Career year last year. Danton Heinen, career year. All these guys, you got the last bit of hockey from Van Riemsdyk and Shattenkirk, and you just kind of piece it together. You don't have that. You don't have the talent. That's the worst part about all of this. I don't think it's guys that are, in slumps or not showing you enough in terms of effort. I think there's some effort out there. I don't think they're good enough, and I don't think there's any buy-in, any cohesiveness. That's what it looks like to me. They're a team with no confidence and no belief in whatever the system is, whatever their coach thinks it is, whatever their GM thinks it is. The players don't buy into it. And I don't know how much the captain buys into it. He's obviously been really struggling. There's just no conviction, no confidence in this team at all. They don't know what kind of team they are. Are they a super structured defensive team? Are they a beefy, intimidating team? They're certainly not a skilled offensive team. They're not any of those things. And when you look at the progression from the last few years, it is an abject failure from the top down. Do I want Jim Montgomery fired? Yeah, I think that's part of the problem. But, I mean, make no mistake about it, this starts with the general manager. I mean, this is the top on down. You look at the roster that Jim Montgomery's got to deal with, and you're like, all right, who can deal with this? There's a handful of coaches that could in the league that could make this team good, right? So I don't love the Montgomery philosophy, but Don Sweeney is the reason for this team that you have out there on the ice. And it's, I should say, it's all of them, right? It's Sweeney, it's Montgomery, it's the players. Nobody has their hands clean right now. But Don Sweeney is the one who put this team together. Don Sweeney is the one who lets Jake DeBrusk walk and not replace him. I know the DeBrusk numbers aren't great this year, but you know what you get from DeBrusk. The numbers are going to be good. He is going to get 45, 50 points. I don't know if I could say that about these other wingers on this team. Max Jones, Trent Frederick. Trent Frederick is a waste, an absolute waste of space out there, just getting cardio. 14 minutes a game, largely playing on the second and third line, a team high -9. And what does he do for you? He's not going to score 20 goals like he did last year. He's not mucking it up. He's not a tough player to play against, as evidenced by the stats. He's not a tough player to play against. He's literally on the ice for more goals against than anybody on the team. Because I saw this line last week. It was Max Jones, Charlie Coyle, Trent Frederick. And on social media, I was like, oh, boy. And I had these Bruins homers coming up like saying, what? That line's tough to play against. Really? Because that line has your top two in plus minus, worst plus minuses on the team. Two of the guys on that line are the worst minus players on the team. And the reason why Max Jones isn't higher up that list because he's not getting as much ice time as those guys. But Trent Frederick and Charlie Coyle are both -9s. They give you nothing. Absolutely nothing. And in save percentage, the Bruins are in the 20s. They're 22nd in the league in save percentage. So the goalies haven't been great either. But I got guys like RA, who I really love. RA, by the way. I hope he comes back to Chiclet soon, talking about how they need to yank Swayman from the game. And I'm like, Swayman is not the problem here. Has he been great? No. But the problem is how shit this team is. The problem is it took them 34 minutes last night to get their second 5-on-5 shot. There isn't a team in the league that's as bad as that on 5-on-5 as the Boston Bruins. That is atrocious. That looks like a high school team playing against the NHL. 34 minutes to get your second 5-on-5 shot. Yeah, one shot on 5-on-5 in the first half of the game. That's awful. And there was a point in that second period where the Hurricanes had it in the zone for about a minute and a half. And I kept looking up to the score bug. I'm like, they're not on a power play. This is 5-on-5. And at the end of it, Brickley, the Nesson guy, who, I mean, I'll be fair to Brickley. He's not like a total homer or anything. Like, he will call them out on kind of their bullshit sometimes. But at the end of the shift, Brickley is going, this is men against boys right now. This is terrible. That's the hometown broadcaster. And I watched the intermission show. I never watched the intermission show. I think Barry Peterson's losing it a little bit. Billy Jaffe's pretty good. And like Pellerin, the studio host, has no idea what to say. Like, you can't spin this. They're terrible. This is a lottery team right now. The last 3 minutes of that first period is all you need to watch. That is taking a bad situation that you made bad and continuing to make it worse. Like, there's no backbone right now. There is no fight. There is no fight back. And that's why I'm like, this is going to get worse. This is going to get worse. I don't know what you look at and say, oh yeah, this will happen, so it'll get better. But you look at the last 2 seasons and the guys they have let go, and it's DeBrusque, Foligno, Bertuzzi, Orloff, Taylor Hall, Lena Solmark, and whatever. You have to navigate. You have to navigate the salary cap. Some of those were trade deadline deals. I get it, but you didn't replace any of them. Any of them. Your replacements for those guys on the ice right now are Max Jones, Morgan Geekie, Trent Frederick in a bigger role, Jonas Korpisalo. That's shit. That is dog shit. And that's what this team is right now. They are dog shit. And the numbers prove it. I mean, just a horrendous game last night. And I'm looking at the stats. Carolina actually had 8 more giveaways than the Bruins did. And what's so damning about that is if you watch that game, you'll know exactly why. Because the Bruins never had the puck. Never. Honestly, it's like watching like the top team in the Premier League facing a relegation team, and in soccer, and the relegation team just never gets the ball. That's what it was like watching a 5-on-5 NHL hockey game last night. Like it was, Bruins finally won some faceoffs, by the way. It was the only thing they did good all night, but it's just awful. It's just awful. And again, your 2 free agent guys are not giving you anything. Elias Lindholm gets called for a goaltender interference, which knocks off a goal, which is a horrible, horrible, horrible call. And Jim Montgomery's just sitting there, watches it on the iPad, just puts his hands in his pockets, probably playing with himself. I know you can't challenge that, but can you lose your mind, dude? Can you just fucking go ballistic once, get thrown out of a game? Because that was horrible. Your team's giving a horrible dog shit performance, and you get this dreadful call against you, which wipes off a goal. Can you lose your mind for me, please? You know, I mean, Scotty, we say it in baseball all the time. Like, a manager sometimes needs to get thrown out of a game, prove a point. And
we usually love them for it.
Yes. Most managers getting thrown out serve a purpose bigger than that one call. And I'm like, can I get, and basketball, you see it too sometimes. Can I get that from the Bruins coach right now? A guy coaching for his job, a team entering complete free fall, and you get this awful call against you, which knocks off a goal. Can you just go ballistic? And a penny for the thoughts, or to be a fly on the wall in that locker room in the first intermission. I would have killed to be in that locker room first intermission. Because he's got to be telling you guys, like, I'm not pulling Swayman right now. I'm not doing that to light a fire under your ass. You guys need to do this yourselves, because this is horrible. We come in after a couple of bad efforts in a row, or 3 out of 4 bad efforts. We're coming in a bad way after a shit loss at home to a bad Philadelphia team on Tuesday night. Let's go. Let's be some road warriors. Let's show some balls and come out here and play well against a good team. And they didn't even hang with them for 20 minutes. They completely collapsed. This team has no nuts and no skill. It's bad all the way around. The players are bad. The coach is bad. The general manager is bad. The farm system is bad. And yet there's going to be this intense loyalty from the Jacobs family for Neely and Sweeney and Montgomery and Marchand and all these guys. We talked yesterday, what is it going to take? Probably firing the coach, probably firing the GM, which I'm more on board with than anything, and trading a star player, a core player. None of that's going to happen, Bruins fans, okay? None of that is going to happen this year. And Ian McLaren of Locked On Bruins, Locked On Podcast Network, had a great point. He said, if they fire Jim Montgomery, that's the third coach Sweeney has fired. How many GMs get to fire 3 coaches? Not a lot. Which means it should probably go up even higher. Fire Don Sweeney yesterday for this roster that he's putting out there. There were signs of it last year, by the way. In that both playoff series, you could have said, this looks like an AHL roster. And that's exactly what it looked like. And it's what it's looked like all year. Pavel Zacha. I thought about Pavel Zacha this morning. Has he played for the Bruins this year? Has anyone had a sighting of 18 in black and gold this year? Because it's bad enough you don't notice Elias Lindholm, who you're given 8 sheets a year. But Pavel Zacha, who you thought you got at the bargain deal, trading Eric Haula for Pavel Zacha. What a coup that was. Oh, and then Patrice Bergeron's gone, and the guy's a fucking jag. He completely sucks. He has their only shorthanded goal this year. That was in the first period of game 1. Who the hell is Pavel Zacha? Who are any of these guys, man? You broke up the only good line you had, and now we just get more of our lives filled with Pavel Zacha and Justin Brazeau and Max Jones and Charlie Coyle and Trent Frederick, who give you nothing. They are completely useless. You go down your forwards group, and about 10 out of 12 of them are completely useless. This is going to get worse before it gets better. They're back in Philly. They're playing the Flyers. They were supposed to have practice today. They have canceled that. They have been given the day off. This team is going to try anything to get the headspace right, but right now it is wrong. Wrong. This was a long segment, Scotty. I'm sorry about that. Let's talk Patriots. They have a winnable game on Sunday. Will they have the quarterback? We'll see. That's coming up next.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Welcome to a special edition of the Doomsday Podcast. Look at this. We got one of the great golfers in the world, certainly one of the great pass rushers in NFL history.
But he also had a vision for you. And so it was like you had the best of both worlds, right? You had somebody on you early, and then you had somebody who was maybe more relaxed.
What were a couple of your biggest takeaways? The first thing you referred to that I've spoken to some personnel people and general managers of the league to get some, independent, objective assessments of the players the Cowboys picked, and we'll go through that.
Has the general manager changed at all in the draft? Nope, it's been the same since I was here the last time.
We are back. That was right. We are back on the Cam Show. By the way, before we get into this Patriots thing, you'll like this, Scotty. Jordan Montgomery, remember him?
No.
Jordan Montgomery, good pitcher sometimes. Exercised his $22.5 million option with the Diamondbacks. Good for him, man. This is the guy. The owner last month was like, "This guy sucked. We made a huge mistake. He had a player option. He took it.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's gonna take you guys getting me out of here. I'm taking 22.5, man. You want to trade me? Go figure it out. Like, yeah. Good for him, man. Good for him. He wants to play for the Red Sox, or wanted to going into this year. But let's get back to the task at hand. Patriots play the Titans this weekend, Mike Hamilton's Titans, and have a real chance to win because they're facing the Titans, even though it's in Nashville. But the question this week has, of course, been whether they're going to have their quarterback or not. Drake May takes that hit against the Jets last week, concussion protocol, limited in practice, but there's looking like more and more momentum that he is going to play. We didn't really talk about this because we had a loaded week, but I do want to take a look at the hit that got Drake May injured. We have that clip here. So he's going into his slide, and it's going to look worse than it maybe is. So it goes down. It looks okay from that angle. You're going to get another angle here in a second that makes it look bad. But like Scotty, I never know with a quarterback going into his slide. It's very tough for these defenders who are already angling for a tackle. You'll get a little bit of a look here. It gets a little partially blocked. Like he's not leading with his helmet. It does end up being helmet to helmet, as you're going to see here, and this looks terrible, right? But it's bang bang. I actually don't think it's as bad as it looks on that final angle. I don't think the guy got fined. It was no penalty. It's just kind of an unfortunate thing. And Drake May is sliding, so it's not. Should he have slid earlier when he took that first hit? Maybe, but it's not like the kid doesn't slide ever. So that is where we're hung up here as to whether he is going to play this week, because I know they pulled out the win against the Jets, who won last night, by the way. How about those Jets, man, bouncing back against Houston? I know you got by against the Jets with Jacoby Brissett, but that's not your long-term solution. Like, you don't need to crunch the numbers. You just watch the game, man. It is a completely different offense when Drake May is out there versus Jacoby Brissett. Much different in a good way. The difference is stark. Thank you. That's what we call a plug, Scotty. But Drake May is obviously the guy for this offense. And having Jacoby Brissett out there, it's like going back to the Stone Age. Mayo had some comment about, what the differences are. He's like, there's no difference schematically, but Drake May is like 2004 Michael Vick, and Jacoby Brissett is like that great pocket passer. And I'm like, well, I don't know if either of those things are true necessarily. Drake May is a great athlete, and he can get out there in space and run, and that's obviously the biggest difference. But Jacoby Brissett, great pocket passer.
Unless your name is Lamar Jackson, I don't know that I would be making any comparisons to Michael Vick ever.
Probably not. By the way, there's this new Netflix thing that's supposed to take place in high school in 2003. And it was like, this is what it looked like in 2003. I didn't watch the video, but someone quote tweeted it and goes, "Not enough backwards Michael Vick jerseys." I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But even with Brissett back there, could we see a Jacoby Brissett, Mason Rudolph square off, tussle, square dancing this Sunday in Nashville? That would be awesome. Pete might get a shot to do that game. Not a slight at Pete, but they're going to go way down the totem pole here. Pete should inquire about that as to what Pete's better, by the way, than some of the CBS people that get thrown out there. This is I thought this Miami game a few weeks ago with Snoop Huntley versus Jacoby Brissett would be the worst football that we watched. It was pretty bad. This could be worse, because at least with Miami they have some good skill position players, right? They've got they still got Waddle and Hill and some guys who can make plays on defense too. Emmanuel Ogbah is still making plays. That's a Big 12 blast from the past. Nashville. Tennessee does not have any of that. The Titans do not have any of that, and neither do the Patriots. This is probably the two least skilled teams in all of football, I think. Carolina still gets a shout, of course, but this is right up there with two of the least skilled teams in the entire NFL. squaring off this Sunday. So my analysis is if you have Drake May, they're going to win the game. If Drake May's playing this weekend, he's going to get his first career win as a starter. And he gets guys involved, man. Guys who don't really want the football. Our man Taekwon had one of the worst drops I've ever seen last week on a beautiful, beautiful throw. When they do at the Baylor game, they do that Bears in the NFL, and they do like little highlights of all their guys who are in the NFL. That should be the Taekwon Thornton one. That is representative of his Patriots time. Man. That is representative of his Patriots time. I know he can catch it. He made some great catches in his college days. But Drake May rolling out to the right, 40, 45 yards, right on the dot. Taekwon does the tough part. He boxes out his defender and is using the boundary to his advantage, and he doesn't catch it. Just says, nope. You could not have turned around and handed it off to a guy any better than that, and he fucking dropped it. Yes, if Drake May's playing, they're going to win this week. And this might be their last week without a couple of these guys. I think, the deadline's Monday or Tuesday? KJ Osborne, if you want him, come and get him. Kendrick Bourne, if you want him, probably come and get him. I like Kendrick for a lot of the time he's been here, but he's not cutting it anymore. Uche's already been sent away. Devon Godshaw, I'm tempted to just say come and get him. I know there's that thought of like Belichick would always keep some veteran guys he could have traded at certain points to kind of have that veteran presence in the locker room and have some sort of example for these guys. So that's what we're going to be looking at with Godshaw and Jonathan Jones and Kendrick Bourne. Like, is it enough for these guys, for this coaching staff to keep some guys around and just be like, you know what, this is worth more to us than an extra 7th round pick, 6th round pick. Getting a 6th for Josh Uche, you should have gotten more. I'm sorry. I mean, you're talking about still a pretty damn good pass rusher for a team that has all kinds of capital and is very good in the Kansas City Chiefs. To get it that far away from the trade deadline and just get a 6th round pick, that's not good enough. It's not terrible business, but it's simply not good enough business. So yeah, we'll see. If Jacoby Brissett plays, I will be, rinsing my eyes out with acid again. But I got to give him the credit for. I mean, he led a legit game-winning drive against the Jets, man. Like that was not a fluke. I mean, fluky in the grand scheme of things of like, is he going to do that 2 weeks in a row? No, but it's not like, he was aided by something. He got a big play from Kayshon Boutte, man. Like, yeah, that was a legit drive. And a gutsy second half performance from Jacoby Brissett. But if we're talking about, the rest of this season, of course it needs to be Drake May, which is why I'm wondering if they're going to be, a little tentative with Drake May. Like, let's just say he's clearing the test, but you're still like, something's not right here.
Well, and how much does like the Tua stuff affect that thought process, right?
I mean, it definitely could.
Because
like at the bottom line, he's the future of your franchise, and you're in a nothing season. So it's got to be a risk reward thing at some point. You want to play him as much as possible, but we also know how dangerous it can be to then get a hit in the head, right after a concussion.
I'm just thinking,
but that's why we have these tests. I know.
I'm just thinking in division, you've had Tua again with this concussion where it was just horrid to see on the field, and then you had a few weeks ago that Josh Allen play where he dinged his head and went back in the game and looked lost, and there were some questions. So those are 2 guys in division that have already dealt with this.
And Aaron Rodgers this season just looks like he's had a concussion. Who was that guy at Michigan like 6 or 8 years ago? I think it was the last year of Brady Hoke. Maybe it was Harbaugh. And he got lit up and got pretty dazed and confused and was having like a lot of trouble getting to the sideline, and he was out he was in there the next series. Do you remember that? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I don't.
It was like John O'Corn or somebody, and just got leveled and like literally like needed help getting to the sideline. Like he was about to fall over, and everyone watching is like, getting that pit in their stomach. And then he's back out there.
That's the scariest thing.
Please don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like kind of the if there's smoke, there's fire thing.
Mhm.
He might have done okay on the tests, but we all just saw that. We all just saw a guy struggle to walk.
Right.
Like, don't
Like,
put him back.
you can
out
remember
there.
your name, but you can't walk straight.
Ugh.
If an officer would not let you continue driving your vehicle,
You shouldn't be playing.
you probably
football.
shouldn't be taking
Yes.
hits in a
Oh
football
God, that's tough. That's tough. Anyway, if Drake May plays, the Patriots win. If Jacoby Brissett plays, they might still win. Tennessee also really sucks, but I'm sure they're saying that the other at some sports talk in Nashville. They're saying, "Well, we're 1-6, but the Patriots are coming into town." So I get it. Anyway, we're gonna have a new exercise. I got Scotty really cranking the wheels in his head today, thinking about some things. We're going to take a trip down memory lane in a little bit of a sports time machine. That's coming up next on the Cam Show.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is Stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
It is Matt Mosley, and it's the Obstructed View podcast, Rogue Media Network. I think they're learning that there's really no wonderful view of me. See, I feel like they think this feed's going to be really wonderful.
There must have been, no BS, like 20 scouts, 15 to 20 NBA scouts there to see him, and he was top 5.
When your old number wasn't working, I went through various channels to track you down. So unfortunately, you can never get away from me. But I'm happy. I'm happy to have you today.
No, thanks for having me. And you know we always family, no matter where I'm at.
I mean, yeah, a new coach comes in, they're going to turn the roster. I think that's just we've got all these transfer portal stats and what Dion did and what Fritz has done. I mean, that's the deal, man. That's the game that's being played nowadays.
Maybe a little bit unknown at quarterback. I mean, unknown to the rest of the world, but you know, he dove into the portal and got a guy who is super athletic.
South Dakota State's really good. Give us a little bit of breakdown about what they can do and what Oklahoma State needs to be worried about.
But look at that form right there. I need to say nothing else about this because I found one.
One more update on this Bruins practice situation. Ty Anderson, who's like one of the best covering this team. Yesterday was an optional morning skate. Then they lose 8-2. So scrapping practice is a bit odd in the sense that 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. games mean no morning skates. So they're not getting on the ice aside from the games. I honestly don't think they should practice. I think it's been great. I think it's nothing to work on. Nothing to work on. That does scream like if you were played for like a bad team, whether it be like high school or little league or something, and like, I mean, mainly high school, I guess, in this sense. And it's like you're at the end of a bad season, you do something kind of positive, and they're like, "Yeah, you get a day off," and there's like 2 games left in the schedule.
Yeah,
that's happened to me before. That's like a pity. Like coach probably doesn't really want to be there either,
and we don't blame him.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because we don't want to be. Yeah. Speaking of where we want to be, how about that? How about that transition? I thought of this question. Well, I'm sure other people have asked this question. Scott, you can bring yourself in here. We're gonna go to you a lot on this.
Okay.
Because I made you think about this.
That's true.
I was gonna use this for a summer segment. We never got to it, but I heard this question asked on a pod months ago, and it was fascinating to me because I am a huge sports historian, like sports history nut. And so some of my favorite players ever are people I never saw play. So the question was, if you could hop in a time machine and go back and experience, not like one game, but like experience an athlete's prime, who would it be? Because like I will never, it will never be lost on me how blessed I was to get all of Brady's career for my favorite team. You know what I mean? Like that's a very special thing. I can tell you anything about Tom Brady's career, and like, there's not many of the many people who can say something like that. You know, oh, I grew up in Chicago in the 90s. I saw all of Jordan. Or, yeah, I was a kid in the plains of Western Canada in the 80s. But, you know, there's nothing culturally relevant except for the fact that we were watching Wayne Gretzky every night. So, you know, there's only a select few people, when you break it down, and sports fans who can say that. So we're gonna take that out of it. We're gonna go in the time machine. We're gonna give you anyone you want. Scotty, I want to know who's yours and why.
Yeah, this was a good question, and I
Thank
think,
you.
You know, part of me was inclined to think of the all-time greats across all of it. So, like, a couple guys like Muhammad Ali crossed my mind, right? Like, who wouldn't give to go back and watch him fight? Carl Lewis crossed my mind, right?
Yeah,
possibly America.
Notably, not picking Michael Johnson, Baylor grad, but
greatest, you know, one of the greatest athletes ever. But I was trying to think of someone who would play for one of my teams. So
that's kind of the way I was thinking.
Professionally, I'm a big Cowboys fan, so Roger Staubach comes to mind, right? The captain, the general, but the admiral, excuse me. But I came back to this guy because to me, when it comes to professional sports, this is not only.
Oh, I swear, if you say Hank Blaylock,
this is not only a GOAT, but this is somebody whose career was derailed by injury, which we talk about with a lot of guys.
Okay. Might be similar to mine.
But for me, it's got to be Bo Jackson, man.
Oh,
I mean, not just with the bow nose, like look at this dude, man. I mean, unbelievable, right? So as an NFL player, might be at the top of the list anyway. Not to mention that he was an all-star baseball player in Major League Baseball. Not to mention that in high school, he was the state champion in the decathlon, setting the state record for high jump and triple jump.
My goodness, man.
Dude was just like
7 yards per carry in 87.
Dog.
When everyone was loading the box.
Dude, I mean, I'm just like, yeah, that's who I would. And I don't know if I'd want to see him play a football game, a baseball game, both.
Just watch him work out.
Yeah, I mean, come on, bro.
Earl Campbell would be way high up on my list. So, and this is kind of the same thing, right? Like those two plus Herschel Walker, like just that speed and power, incredible to watch. And like he was a good baseball player. He should have focused.
An all-star baseball player.
He should have focused on football.
That's easy to say now, but Deion Sanders, all due respect to Deion Sanders, who also did both. Deion Sanders says Bo Jackson is the greatest two-sport athlete of all time.
I mean, yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I'm saying he would have been, and I get that he also gets hurt in football, so that kind of makes this point moot. But like, he would have been an all-time great football player. He would have been a pretty good baseball player, which he was.
Right,
I mean, he was pretty good. He made
was
an
an
all-star
all-star.
team.
Yeah.
Had a nice little career to talk about. In the NFL, he would have been an all-time great, like one of the great running backs to ever play.
I think what's insane though, if he doesn't get hurt. With, by the way, an injury that modern medicine can handle, which just makes it all the more sad, right?
Yeah.
The baseball thing wasn't prohibiting his greatness in football. Like,
right.
He could have had a 11, 12-year NFL
was certainly a better baseball
career
player than Deion.
Yeah. But he could have had
Deion worked up to be a fine baseball player.
Right.
Serviceable. But there were some times where he was pretty bad in there. That's fair. Okay. Bo Jackson.
Yep.
Vincent Edward Jackson.
That would be mine.
Heisman Trophy. It's pretty good. So mine, it is somewhat difficult, but really not difficult at the end of the day. I tried to think of like my teams as well, and I would still consider this guy my favorite hockey player ever, even though he played his last game 20 years before I was born. That is the great. I still think the greatest hockey player ever to play. Revolutionized the game. Number 4.
Westfall rolled it in front. Sanderson tried a shot that was wide, and Keenan cleared it, but not out. Bobby Orr behind the net to Sanderson. Orr! Bobby Orr scores, and the Boston
great person, first of all. He was always humble. He was always quiet. I mean, he persevered. The game and winning the game was the most important thing. He was 5'7", 140 pounds. He was like a lightning in a bottle, and he was just a bantam. He set all sorts of records then. Everybody knew he was going to be fantastic. But you look at him as he grew. I played against him 3 years in junior. Never quit. Wow. And he just had a kind of an overshift. He had an overdrive that no one else had. No one could see it. I used to watch the films of him, and I used to watch, replays, not films like today you do today. But I'd watch, and then he'd be by you. And I'd say, were we that slow? But Bobby was something to behold when you watched him live. That was his greatness.
We don't have to say how good he was as a player. We all know it's very important to him. He's a great team player. I think that's the best thing you can say about anyone, that he was a great team player and a great teammate.
Bobby Orr, there's nothing close. In fact, Bobby Clark has this great, Bobby Clark, captain of the Flyers, Broad Street Bullies, big-time rivals in the 70s, a great player in his own right, two-time MVP, Bobby Clark. And he had the greatest quote I thought about Bobby Orr. He said, we watch him and we would say, this dude's got to be in one league higher than this. Like the NHL was not good enough for him in a lot of ways. And it's ultimately, weirdly, sadly, what leads to his downfall, because they couldn't stop him. And so they had to play really physical with him. Penalties were a lot looser back then. And he played at a high rate of speed. And so he's always said this, the way I played, you're going to take a lot of hits, and just debilitating knee injuries year after year. At one point, the last few years of his career, there was no cartilage. It was just bone on bone. And like the things he had to go to just to get on the ice, it was incredible. One tough SOB, Bobby Orr, man, the best of the best ever. Great guy as well. It would be like my distinct honor to meet Bobby Orr. And I should have sent you this clip. There's something every day, Scotty, where I'm like, I should have sent you this, because in my favorite Boston movie ever, The Friends of Eddie Coyle, at the end of it, they go to a Bruins game, and it's this like kind of mobster, gritty bank robbery, crime drama movie. And yet they take like 2 minutes to just appreciate Bobby Orr. Like it's Robert Mitchum's character saying, what it would be to be a kid like this. What is he? 24 years old, best hockey player in the world, number 4, Bobby Orr. I mean, just peerless, absolutely peerless. Gretzky, I get it. The numbers are fantastic, and I'm just calling him the second best, right? Unbelievable player, and with numbers that probably will not be equaled in a lot of ways, or in a lot of his numbers, I should say. But when he retired, he was the all-time leading scorer, and the second leading scorer all-time was not only a guy that played in his era, but was a guy who played on his team. Bobby Orr, peerless. I mean, no one has dominated the league the way he did. Nobody. He was so much better than everyone else. So yes, Bobby Orr, old Boston Garden, winning the Stanley Cups with those great teams with Esposito and Cashman and Hodge and Busick and Cheesy and Turk. And oh yeah, I'd take that in a second. Bobby Orr. It was difficult. There was some good also rans, but Bobby Orr's that guy. Who were the other guys you were thinking of? Out of curiosity now.
I mean, I named a couple. I feel like you said about Brady, even though I'm not a Pats fan. Like, I feel fortunate to have seen Brady go. I feel that way about Mahomes right now. I'm
LeBron?
I have a story about that, actually. So,
okay. I still have LeBron number 2 overall.
So LeBron,
all time.
LeBron, he's number 1 for me.
Okay.
LeBron has been my favorite basketball player since he came to the NBA. So I was 10 or 11 when he went into the NBA, and I remember in my elementary or intermediate school local library getting a book the year he went into the NBA that was talking about his rise and getting drafted and all this. And I was like, that's my favorite basketball player. I had his jersey, all of it, when he was with the Cavs the first time. So I've just followed his whole career. And a couple years ago, I finally went, how the hell have I been here as LeBron James has been playing his whole career, and I've never seen him play? We were living outside of Houston, so I got tickets to go see LeBron play against the Rockets. And
the Lakers?
With the Lakers, yeah, just a year and a half ago or so. And what was so fun about it, Cam, is literally he did not play well. Like, he didn't shoot well. He had a couple clunkers from three. It was kind of the classic LeBron taking slightly too many shots kind of game. And yet he had a triple-double. And I think it was in the third quarter, he got a steal on a fast break and did a classic take it all the way coast to coast,
throw the hammer
tomahawk down. And I went, I got everything I wanted out of that basketball game. So it was a blast. It was honestly a blast.
Is that the best athlete you've seen live? Well, I should say there's two different ways to ask this question, I guess, because like that probably is. He's at worst the second best basketball player ever to play.
Yeah.
But there's that aspect of it. And then like a guy who is in his prime of like, you know, is he the best player ever? No. But like, I saw this guy just dominate everyone around him. You know what I mean by that?
I think so. I think so. Because LeBron, I mean, he was not what we would call dominant anymore, but it's still LeBron James. Like,
yeah. So like mine would also be LeBron. I've seen LeBron play live, but well, he was at the end of his peak, to be honest with you. I mean, he's still probably in it. It was 2015. He was with Cleveland. It was the first year back in Cleveland. Saw him play the Celtics in the playoffs. But the guy I think of when I ask that question to myself is Jack Eichel, playing for the Vegas Golden Knights. And I saw him play in college a bunch of times when he was at Boston University and won the Hobie Baker Award, which is the Heisman for college hockey. And that was like the most dominant I had seen anyone against their competition at that level, like not high school. You know what I mean? Like he was a freshman and he should have been playing in the NHL. Like he was so much better than everyone else on the ice. Kind of like Bobby Orr. Like actually a lot of what I was talking about, he's not Bobby Orr, but like he was far and away the best skater, and it was just effortless. Like he would just skate through everybody, effortless shot, best player on the ice by far. But yeah, I guess I did see LeBron too.
I'll tell you
LeBron,
who.
I saw Ortiz, you know.
When you talk about dominance like that, this guy is nowhere close to like greatest athlete of all time. But we're going to go hyper specific for just a second. Please. When Mike Hicks played football at China Spring.
Okay.
So this is Texas high school football.
Yeah, baby. My broadcasting.
That dude played. He was a starter all 4 years of high school as a freshman all the way through senior year, and that guy never left the field. Defense, offense, special teams. He was in on every play. His senior year, it just became, if we can't move the ball on offense, put him in the backfield and pitch him the ball. And he was just fastest, strongest player every game he played. There was nobody that could touch him. When he finished his career, he was the second all-time leading receiver in Texas high school history, behind only Jordan Shipley. Who
was also a legend.
Yes. To this day, legend, he's still in the top 10. And he and Jordan Shipley are the only two that are still in the top 10 that haven't played in the last like 5 years, just because of the evolution of offenses. But when you ask for like dominance, that high school level, I'll tell you the other guy, he's currently at Texas A&M playing running back. He was the #1 running back 2 classes ago. His name's Ruben Owens. I saw his very first high school game. I was calling their games in El Campo.
Really?
And his very first high school game, they're playing actually a division up. And last play of the game, he's a freshman. It's his first game ever. They pitch him the ball as time's expiring. He reverses field, and I'm thinking, this freshman, like he's toast, right? They're playing a bigger school. He just outruns everybody to the other end and goes and scores to win the game. And he dominated every game he played. So
damn.
Texas high school football, you can get some of that.
That's what I was gonna ask. Like, have you seen an NFL guy in high school?
I think Ruben will be.
Yeah.
But
he will be.
Not that I remember. It's very possible I have, and I was too young to remember. Or, I know guys that saw like Matt Stafford play in high school. I know plenty of people that saw Robert Griffin playing. In fact, RG3, my basketball coach said he was the best basketball player he's ever seen.
People were saying he was actually a real good hooper, man.
Yeah.
And obviously unbelievable track runner.
Yeah.
One last story before we go. This is my Texas high school football story of like my kind of foray into it. Because I was intrigued by it growing up. Like growing up in Massachusetts, I loved Friday Night Lights, the movie. And so like I knew all about Permian, and I loved like the history of Texas high school football and the pageantry and all that. But of course I didn't know like a ton about it coming down here, I guess more than most people that grew up in Massachusetts. But like my first day on campus at Baylor, I'm talking with the guy who lives the room next door, who I still talk to, still friends with. I had asked him, like, oh, where you, because he was a Houston kid. And I was like, did you have like big time, were you a big time high school football school? And he goes, not really. I mean, we just haven't really been the same since Andrew Luck left.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck
Stratford.
you, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks, man. Guy who's, first pick in the NFL draft was your quarterback.
No big deal.
in high
No big
school.
deal.
Like, yeah, I would say you did something going on there.
So
Craig James alma mater too. By the way.
Similar vibes. A couple months ago, I was living outside of Houston in the Sugar Land area, and I knew some students at a high school there that I asked them how their football season was going. Yeah, we haven't been good since CeeDee Lamb graduated. I mean, same kind of thing, right? It's just okay.
Meanwhile, I'm like, yeah, we've been the same since Joe Reardon left. Yeah. Anyway, that's Scotty Swingler getting us going in the sports time machine. I'm Cam Stewart. We'll be back here on Monday breaking down the Patriots high noon Eastern. We will see you 11 a.m. Central Time. You can find us here on YouTube live every day of the week, weekday. And then wherever you get your podcast. So we'll see you on Monday on The Cam Show.
You are here with your shoot first point guard, Corey Dickman.
Also, if you're not creating new fans in a small market, then you're not creating that base of people to go to games and pay for merchandise and pay for stuff and concessions at the Moda Center and yada yada.
Yeah, let's talk draft. That's the only thing we have to look forward to. The only thing we have to look forward to. That's what I will teach my son. You will teach your daughter as Blazers fans. It's like, look, the two most exciting times of the year for us are the draft lottery and the draft itself. Like, here we are. This is our thing. Give me some memories and thoughts. I know you had mentioned kind of the first time you had met Bill. What were some of those first memories that came back when you heard the news?
Coming up on the Pete Souza Show, Rogue Media and ESPN's own King McClure talks to us about the NBA draft.
Team is banged
Are
up
you
a bit.
undressed while we're doing this?
No.
What is happening?
And it's partially because the team has like pretty kind of
Wrong
big problems.
podcast, Nick. Wrong podcast. When you're a golfer, what is the point of no return? He was the best play-by-play announcer around, in my opinion, and he made me want to continue to watch.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We are Rogue Media Sports.